Hi there, Chris, chap in the camp, Motolegends. Today we're going to be talking about a new boot from the American brand Icon. The boot is called the Stormhawk. We recently took on a new short adventure boot from the American brand Klim. It's called the Outlander Gtx, and in some ways it's an updating of a previous version. It's a heck of a boot. It's a combination in some ways between a hiking boot and a biking boot. Because what was important for Klim was that this was the kind of boot that you could ride in all day, but when you pulled off the road at night, you found a camping site, you might want to go for a walk. They wanted a boot that would feel just as comfortable for that hike up the top of the hill to grab a photo as it would be for biking during the day. It's what one of our wittier customers has termed a motohiking boot. Very funny. Anyway, this boot is as tough as you'll find. It's got protectors all over. You've got a really strong toe. You've got pucks in the ankle. You've got a counter in the heel. You've got a Gore-Tex membrane. Clearly, it doesn't get better than Gore-Tex. You've also got, perhaps the standout feature of the boot is this boa lacing system. And the boa lacing system is very reliable, very strong, but it's just so easy to use. So you push the button in, wind it up, get it as tight as you want. If you end up getting it a little bit too tight, you just pull it out, relax the boot a wee bit. When you want to get into the boot, you can open it up really easily, really widely, and get your foot in. So I think on a motorcycle boot, the boa lacing system works incredibly well. The boot came into stock fairly recently, and it sold through very quickly. In fact, it looks to us as though it's going to disappear pretty soon. We're recording this at the end of July 2021, and I would imagine within a couple of weeks, all of our boots will have sold out. And that, I've got to say, here this year, 2021, that's pretty typical of Klim. They've got not a lot of stock spare, so things come in, things go out, they disappear. We'll get restocks next year, we hope. Well, recently we came across a boot that in some ways is a dead ringer in our view for this boot. It's from another American brand, the American brand Icon. Now the two boots look pretty similar, but it's got to be said there are still a number of differences. And in the margin, if we were to be critical, the Outlander is a better boot. It uses better components. So for the membrane, you've got Gore-Tex, you've got in the tongue that goes behind the boa lacing system, you've got an XRD pad. Klim used the Nestfit system to make this a really comfortable. It's a system that's designed to find the perfect footbed. So I'm imagining that the Klim is going to be a slightly more comfortable boot. You've got a strong shank in the sole, which you don't have with this boot. But what happens when you use the best components like that, like Klim has a tendency to do, you end up with a product that is not cheap. And indeed, that boot, the Outlander at £300, is not an inexpensive boot. When we compare it with the Icon, it's got to be said that the Icon probably in the margin is not quite so tough. But for most of us who are not trekking around the world, it's going to be more than tough enough. So let's have a look at the boot in a little bit more detail. The upper is a waterproof treated leather. Not that it relies on that for its waterproofing, because it's also got a waterproof membrane inside. And the membrane comes from a company called Event. Event's not particularly well known in the motorcycle world, but it is well known in the outdoor world, in the mountaineering world. So it's a very respectable membrane. This is not a boot that's going to leak. You've got strong protectors in the toe. In the heel, you've also got a hard counter. For the ankles, we've got D30 panels, as they're now called. In the olden days, D30 did these thick pucks, and they didn't work particularly well in the ankles because when they were cold, they just weren't soft enough. But you've now got these sheets of D30, and there's a number of these sheets in the ankles. It makes the ankles particularly comfortable, but it's good to know that you've got a protection there. The lacing system is exactly the same as the one you get in the Klim boot. So there are look-alike systems, but this is a proper boa lacing system, works in the same way. Push it in, wind it up, pull it out, opens the boot. You've got these nibs on the front of the boot for the gear change. That's going to be obviously more pertinent on the left side, but that gives you a little bit of protection from the gear change. You've got this rubber paneling around the front of the boot for extra protection. At the back of the boot, you've got reflectors. You've got a pretty rugged sole, and you've got a padded shaft for comfort at the top of the boot. You also get, and they're really neat, you get these two pulls on the side of the boot so that when you put the boots on, you can easily pull them up. The Icon Stormhawk is a heck of a boot. It would not be unfair to suggest that as far as some of the details are concerned, the Klim probably outplays it in a number of areas. So if we compare the two boots here, we've got a tougher, more rugged sole on this boot. Can't necessarily tell on camera, but I can tell just by feeling this sole that it's a tougher sole. There's something a little bit more plasticky about this one. In the Klim boot, you've got a tough shank, a reinforcing shank in the sole that makes this boot very rigid, very difficult to bend. You don't have one in this boot. It's a much more flexible boot. Might make it more comfortable to walk in, but it's not going to be quite in the same league as far as protection is concerned. In terms of the BOA lacing system, they've both got the BOA lacing system, but on the Klim boot, we've got 4 outlets that just spreads the load across the tongue a little bit more evenly, makes it more comfortable when you do it up. Here on the Icon, we've got just 3. You've got a Gore-Tex membrane on the Klim boot. We all know Gore-Tex is probably the superior membrane, and so on and so forth. So it goes. The Klim boot has probably got more components and better components. But the big difference really between the 2 boots is not in those components, it's on price. Because the Klim boot is nearly twice as much as the Icon boot. So the Icon, the Stormhawk, comes in at £179.99, the Klim Outlander at £300. That's almost twice the price. So is the Klim a better boot? Yes, almost certainly it's a better boot. Is it twice the boot that the Icon is? Absolutely not. Now, we love what Klim does. We think their gear is brilliant. We enjoy wearing it. We enjoy riding in it. We like what the Klim brand stands for. And if we were allowing our hearts to rule our head, we would make a case for wearing the Outlander. But if for a moment we let our head rule our heart, I'm afraid we'd have to choose the Icon any day of the week. If you'd like to see more boots, more adventure boots maybe, visit the website motolegends.com. If you want to learn more about the Stormhawk, then if you click on one of the links on the screen, sometimes they're up there, sometimes they're down there, that will take you directly to the relevant page on the website. There you can check out the spec in a little bit more detail, you can check out availability, and obviously if you want to buy a pair, you can do that there and then. Now when you buy from us, we try to make the process simple, straightforward and risk-free as we possibly can. There's no delivery charge on any item of protected wear that you buy from us. Returns are totally free, and what's more, we give you a full 12 months in which to decide whether you do want to return something to us. We have the best price promise in the business. Now, John Lewis was rightly famed for its never knowingly undersold price promise. We go one stage better. If you can find anyone selling anything that we sell at a price that is lower than ours, we will beat that competitor's price by a full 10%. There are a few terms and conditions, nothing particularly onerous, but if you are going to price beat us, I suggest you visit the website and check out what those terms and conditions are. If you'd like to receive in future bulletins from us about new products, then if you go to the top of the website, top of every page, there's a piece of script that says newsletter sign up. Click on there, within seconds you'll be in business. In future you'll receive our bulletins. If however you prefer to get your information video graphically, that is to say in this form, we'd be simply delighted if you want to become a subscriber to our YouTube channel, and you can do that by clicking on the button below. Now this is 2021. Last year 2020 we gave away to a YouTube subscriber a 125cc Mutt motorcycle that we had customized a little bit to look like a Steve McQueen desert sled. This year, 2021, we've gone up market a little. We're going to be giving away a 250cc Fantic Caballero Scrambler, but we're not going to be giving it away to a YouTube subscriber this year, but rather to somebody who follows us on Facebook. So if you want to stand a chance of winning this fabulous little bike, go across to Facebook and clearly follow us. We'll be giving the bike away just before Christmas this year. Finally, I'd like to make a play for our little shop here at Motolegends. We're based about a mile from the centre of Guildford, a mile from the railway station. And as I've said, it's a small shop, it's got a small footprint, but it's attached to our warehouse where we carry more than £2 million worth of gear arranged over 3 floors. What that means is that this is technically the second largest motorcycle apparel shop in the UK. But we think that we are far more than just the amount of merchandise we have here in the building. We're all about service, we're all about personal fitting. If you want to check us out, visit Trustpilot. We have the highest 5-star ranking in the business. When you serve us, we'll serve you only the finest Italian illy coffee, or we'll serve proper Yorkshire tea in a proper teapot. And who knows, if you're lucky, you might even get to sample one of our delicious motorcycle-shaped shortbread biscuits. Anyway, this has been Chris. I hope to talk to you again soon.